Hey everyone, welcome back to Wentworth Life and welcome back to another Prisoner Cell Block H review. Now, in today's video I am going to be reviewing Prisoner Episode 5, The Woman in the Bedroom. Now, if you haven't already seen my reviews for the first 4 Prisoner episodes, then there is a playlist on this channel where you can binge watch them all. Okay, so let's jump straight in. So at the end of last episode, Mum had collapsed in that horrible rundown hostel place and the owners contacted Mum's family. So when this episode begins, it starts with a really odd dream sequence of Vera, Meg and all of the women coming out of their cells and saying hello Mum with big smiles on their faces. Now Mum wakes up in a bedroom that she does not recognize and she sees daughter Lorraine and husband Ron looking down at her. The people from the hostel obviously contacted them and Lorraine and Ron have taken Mum in, but Lorraine is not pleased at all. Now Lorraine continues to be a bitch to Mum for the most part of this episode and it makes me really angry. Lorraine tells Mum that she has told the children that she is a great aunt from way back called Aunt Violet and tells Mum that the children are not to find out that she is indeed their grandmother, and goes on to say that the children have been brought up to believe that their grandmother is actually dead, which is just horrible. Mum agrees to go along with the story and she then meets the children. Now you got Judith Ann and Andrew. Now throughout this episode, Lorraine literally keeps Mum in bed and in the bedroom and tells the children not to bother her. Judith Ann does bring Mum or Aunt Violet a cup of tea while Lorraine is out shopping and they both end up chatting, but then Lorraine comes back and tells Judith Ann to get out and is like, why are you being so horrible, Lorraine? Please stop being horrible to Mum. Later on, Mum comes out into the kitchen and offers to help Lorraine to do the cooking, but Lorraine is like, nah, it's okay, I like to do the cooking on my own, bitch. Mum sits down and says that she'd love to have a chat because Lorraine has literally uttered hardly any words to her all day and Mum's been stuck in the bedroom. But Lorraine, she just wants Mum to stay in that room and out of the way when the kids get home. This is just so horrible. We do learn why Lorraine is being horrible to her mum, because when Lorraine says that she loved her father, Mum says that she loved him too, and then Lorraine shouts out, but you killed him, and she then breaks down crying. So Lorraine clearly hasn't got over that her mum killed, her dad. And by the end of the episode, Mum realizes that this is just not going to work. And Mum, she invents a story saying that she telephoned an old friend and this old friend wants Mum to come and stay with her. Now, of course, this is a load of old tosh. As Mum is packing her stuff in the bedroom, Judith Ann overhears Lorraine call Auntie Violet Mum. And it's then that Judith Ann realizes that the woman in the bedroom is indeed her grandmother. But Mum leaves without explaining anything. Mum then catches a taxi into town and robs a jewelry store. Mum's parole officer then goes back to Lorraine's house and tells the whole family that Mum, Mrs. Brooks, has been arrested for shoplifting. It's so sad that Mum felt that she had no reason to be on the outside and she just wanted to go back into prison where, the other women are now her real family. It's just so incredibly sad. Let's talk about something a little bit lighter. Now, the women, they are all in the rec room having some dance classes. Frankie and Bea continue to wind each other up, and so basically Karen, she partners up with Bea and Lizzie partners up with Frankie. Now, while they're all dancing, Frankie ends up kicking Bea up the bum. Then Bea kicks Frankie and Frankie just goes down like a sack of potatoes. Frankie then gets up and a proper standoff happens between Bea and Frankie and everyone's wondering what's about to happen. Karen then goes into a huge panic when she starts to get flashbacks of the riot and she ends up running out of the rec room in tears. Vera then catches Karen and Dr. Miller hugging while Karen Karen is crying. Now, we do get to learn a little bit more about Karen and Dr. Miller, because Karen, she ends up like having a dream sequence from when she used to be engaged to Dr. Miller. We learn that Karen left Dr. Miller for another man who she ended up marrying. Then we witness more abuse from Karen's husband, which is just horrible. Her husband really was a nasty piece of work. Karen also seems to have found her tough personality when she has a little bit of a standoff with Frankie in the rec room, telling Frankie that she doesn't frighten her. And I'm just wondering now, is Karen falling a bit too much into prison politics? Lizzie was getting herself into some mischief when she ended up stealing some surgical spirit alcohol stuff from Dr. Miller's office, which is absolutely hilarious. She even replaces it with an empty bottle, so she's clearly done this before. Marilyn was also getting a little bit concerned that she might end up like Rosie, a bun in the oven up the duff. Now, Marilyn ends up trying to get the pill from Dr. Miller, but he says no, so Marilyn tries to get some from Officer Ann Yates, that very officer that unlocked the door for B in episode 1. Now, when Officer Yates passes over the pill to Marilyn, Meg Jackson catches them and a big commotion takes place, and Meg ends up slapping Marilyn and Erica is not happy. And when Marilyn is forced to hand over this package, Dr. Miller reveals that it's not drugs, it is indeed contraceptives. Now, Ann Yates is then placed under suspension until she ends up quitting her role, saying that she doesn't want to come back to this hellhole ever again. Now, this will not be the last time we get to see Ann Yates. Erica then gives Meg a reprimand about slapping Marilyn around, telling Meg that she has given her 1 week to change her attitude with the women. Now, Meg is not happy about this, but will this be a big enough warning for Meg to change her attitude? Let's talk about Lynn Warner, who goes on quite a journey in this episode, and it ends in a huge plot twist. But first things first, Lynn, she's still on this hunger strike. Nobody is taking any notice of her, and I think at one point Meg even just like turns around and says, "You'll eat when you're hungry enough." Later on, Lynn gets desperate and she decides to try and escape from Wentworth Detention Centre, and I believe this is Prisoner's very first escape attempt. Lynn gets a shovel and starts digging under a fence, and this goes on for the most part of the episode. I mean, it's not the best thought through escape plan, as she's digging in plain daylight and in front of the whole prison. Lynn digs this hole and she puts a bag in there and fills the hole back up with the bag like underneath, in the hopes that maybe she can come back out later and just pull the bag up and, you know, she'll be able to just go under the fence. Unfortunately for Lynn, she is caught by Meg and Vera. Now, Vera checks the bag and it just absolutely falls apart. It's just a total fail. Meg even tells Lynn that if she did manage to get under that fence, there are 3 more to go. Lynn then breaks down crying and she runs away from Vera and Meg, and they chase her through the prison ground gardens. Lynn then ends up falling over when she ends up collapsing, probably due to lack of food. We then cut to the episode's cliffhanger, and it's a juicy one. Lynn is taken to Dr. Miller's, surgery, and he checks her over. He then asks Lynn when was the last time that she had any food, and she basically says that it's been about a week. Dr. Miller then has this real concerned look on his face and tells Lynn that she's gonna have to start eating again because she's on the verge of malnutrition. But Lynn, she ain't bothered. Dr. Miller then drops a bombshell that she should really care for the baby. Like, what? What? Lynn looks at Dr. Miller and she's like, what baby? She's not pregnant. But Dr. Miller says, yes, you are. And Lynn is like, there can't be, there's no one. But then the penny drops for Lynn. There was that one man, and Meg is like, what man? And Lynn says, I told you, none of you would believe me. The man who raped me, it's his baby. What? Plot twist alert, like what the hell? Wow. So I wasn't expecting that when I first ever watched Prisoner, and I can remember my mouth dropped to the floor when I first saw this end of episode cliffhanger, but Does this now mean that Lynn might be able to prove her innocence? Well, we are just gonna have to wait and see, because that is the end of the episode review. Wow, what a great episode. Once again, it's jam-packed with storylines with lots happening. I think my favorite part of the episode was definitely the dance class, where Bea and Frankie were pretty much just winding each other up. And I think my least favorite moment would have to be poor mum being treated like crap by her own daughter. It's just really sad to watch. But all in all, a bloody brilliant episode. Now guys, I want to hear from you. Cast your minds back to when you first ever saw this episode. What was your very first reaction to Lynn Warner's baby bombshell? I would be really interested to hear. Okay guys, well that is the end of this video, but stay tuned to the next episode. Prisoner review is just around the corner. It's probably already uploaded by the time you finish watching this one. So guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any action on this channel. Make sure you stay safe out there, and I will see you again very, very soon.